Hi, Jeff here. It's been about 2 months since I made one of these Jeff Journey videos, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. I've kind of been putting it off because I keep thinking that I'm going to make a bigger health progress jump than I have, but I have made a lot of health improvements for the last 2 months. It's been quite up and down though. I figured out quite a bit of the digestive immune issues or made a lot of progress on them. So I've been writing down like some random notes and stuff to say on here, and so a lot's happened over the last 2 months. One, my cousin Virginia and her family were up they rented a cabin on Twin Lake for the 4th of July, and her husband Dave, he has had some digestive issues and was saying that he has found lactate has worked better than anything else for everything, even grains, everything, which is just lactase, which is supposed to digest lactose, which is the sugar in milk. And I was like, I've done tons of experiments, and I just tried it, ate some lasagna and a piece of garlic bread while I was over there. And it should have really messed up my digestion for quite a while, for at least a couple of days probably, and swollen up my throat quite a bit. And it did both those. It messed up my digestion a little, swelled up my throat a little, but significantly less than I was expecting, which seems really weird because there's no reason for just lactase to be doing that as far as I was concerned. And so I started looking into that more, and the reason that it would affect me that much is probably because I'm not producing the right stomach acid. Now, when I got sick in Africa in late 2015, I obviously had a very intense bacterial infection that lasted for 6 months, went through 2 normal antibiotic treatments, went through another holistic herbal antibiotic treatment that finally fixed it. It was an intense 3-month treatment was the last one. And the first one with just normal pills twice didn't work. And so obviously that kind of destroyed my digestive system. And when those infections work their way up even into your stomach lining, they can damage the stomach lining, which is ideally sterile. And then it affects your ability to make stomach acid. So you can't make stomach acid properly, and that affects your ability to digest everything, just like I had, where I couldn't digest almost anything. I could digest plain pork and beef. That was mostly it. So I came across that information, and then I came across research on that. I came across the GAPS diet, which is GAPS is an abbreviation, stands for Gut and Psychology Syndrome, founded by Natasha Campbell McBride, a dashed last name, a Russian MD who's a neurologist and a nutritionist. She had a son that was not hitting his developmental levels, so his brain wasn't developing correctly, and he also had digestive issues. When she fixed the digestive issues, she ended up fixing the developmental issues, and she started a nutrition and health clinic in the UK in like the 90s, I think, and then wrote a book on the GAPS diet and whatnot. And it's extremely interesting, but it's all about repairing the digestive system, which is exactly what I think I need. Because even though the carnivore stuff, just focusing on eating meat, which is the only thing I could eat without getting some sort of reaction, was a really good coping mechanism, it didn't seem to be expanding what I could eat, so my digestive system wasn't healing. Now, Natasha's theory is that any food sensitivity that you have is some sort of damage in the digestive system somewhere. Obviously, the range on this is huge. There's certain people that can digest everything except for like egg yolks. And then there was like me who couldn't digest anything except for a couple of things. So there's a whole huge range on how much damage you have. It focuses heavily, there's 6 intro stages and then a full GAPS diet. So it's all about introducing more and more food, which is what I wanted. It's interesting. It's very interesting, but in the beginner stages, it focuses on meat broths, which are super easy to digest and contain tons of nutrients. Like a beef broth contains like 23 different types of collagen alone. So super interesting, which most of your body's made out of collagen. And super easy to digest because it's just broth. It also focuses a lot on fermented foods. Now, I've done a lot of experiments in fermented foods, started to make my own kefir, which is fermented milk based out of the raw goat's milk, which I could already mostly digest. Right, I could get too much of it, but I get a half a gallon a week and then usually drink it on Sundays. It's what I had been doing. Now I've been fermenting a lot of it into kefir. Now, over the last 2 months, my food sensitivities have gone away a lot. Within the first couple of days of doing the GAPS diet, I already expanded to where my throat didn't swell up anymore when I ate honey and a few other things. So it was crazy fast progress. And my heart rate started dropping there, which is super good, crazy. Now, with the neck adjustments alone, we got my heart rate down some. So for, I don't know, like almost 2 years there, it was over 100 beats per minute all the time, right? So like I'm jogging or running just all the time, which is super exhausting and it fries your organs, and that's would be eventually what I would die from, is some sort of heart attack or other organ failure, because the system is cranking too hard, and it's also burning out the hormones and messing up the chemistry in the brain, because you're in a constant state of stress, which increases noradrenaline levels and stuff like that, which causes what Martin Seligman, one of the founders of what we consider positive psychology now, called learned helplessness, but actually his studies were really flawed, and I don't think he ever corrected them or revised them. Some other people did studies. Basically, what he found with learned helplessness is if you have a dog and you have like a divider in a room, and so there's floor on both sides, if you shock the dog just repeatedly through the floor, but you shock him on both sides, and no matter which one he jumps on, because at first he'll try to jump away from the side that's shocking him, eventually the dog will just give up and just lay down and just zzz, 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 just get shocked. And he was like, well, it's learned helplessness, right? You just kind of like give up. But some other researchers did the same thing, and then it was, so even if you turn the shock off on the other side, the dog won't, even though he's getting shocked on this side, he won't try to jump over now, because he's just given up. He's like, whatever, just got to take the shocks, take the suffering. But another group of researchers, or a researcher, they did the same thing, but they just let the dog lay there, and eventually what they found is the noradrenaline levels are too high to try anything in the brain, essentially, and eventually the dog's adrenaline levels, noradrenaline levels in the brain, their hormone levels will recover enough that the dog will then get up the impetus or motivation or whatever you happen to call it, to then try to escape the punishment again, the zapping through the floor. So it's not exactly association learned helplessness like Martin Seligman presented it. It's more of a chemical issue in the brain, which I probably have had some of that going on as well, or I definitely have had some of that going on as well. Let's see. Oh, and Mom's birthday was on the 4th of July. That's when David and Virginia up, so that was a lot of fun. And then we had Carl's funeral. We had a little get-together. He didn't really have a funeral, but a little get-together and a fire. That was fun. And Ryan came over on his adventure from Hawaii, which was a lot of fun, which I know now they're getting like a hurricane tropical storm over there. Let's see. I walked in a parade, a political parade in Wolf Lake with a friend of mine, the Jaggers, who's running for office. And there was demo day that I went to in Grand Rapids. Really cool. It's this venture capital firm, and this is the first year they put on this specifically. It's Start Gardens 5x5 night. They changed their names a little bit. They're associated, but it's a venture capital firm originally started by Rick DeVos. He doesn't really get involved with it anymore. It's interesting. He starts projects like that, gets them going, and then kind of leaves them in other people's hands. He did the same thing with ArtPrize. He originally started ArtPrize. And they had 100, anyone could submit an idea for getting funded through venture capital. And then they selected 100 of those to come demonstrate at 20 Monroe Live. So it's like a rock concert outfit type venue. And it was really cool to go see all the demonstrations and whatnot. And then they selected a certain number of those. This was almost 2 months ago. I think there was 10 of them that then because every one of those, so 100 people got $1,000. So that's $100,000 in funding from the venture capital fund. But $1,000 for a business isn't very much. But then 10 of them received $20,000. So there's another $200,000. So they gave away $300,000 for this event. And it was pretty cool to see how it all went and see the speeches, and it was a cool environment. It's nice. I also conducted a Team Leadership Institute through Toastmasters for the secretary position, which went off really well, doing the training for that. That was quite a while ago, and now very recently I resigned from secretary and sergeant at arms at the Muskegon Toastmasters Club, because I told everyone that I didn't want to be an officer. I've been an officer the last handful of years, the entire time I've been in Toastmasters. But with my health kind of cycling up and down, and my life being a disaster kind of career-wise and financially and all that type of stuff, I didn't want to take on another officer role. But no one signed up to be Secretary Sergeant at Arms. Since I was the previous secretary, it's my job to put those in online. And so I just filled in my name, and I figured within a couple of weeks we'd be able to find someone. Well, now it's been a couple of months, and still we haven't been able to get anyone to step up. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to force the issue, and I resigned. I've still been doing the roles, but now I'm going to let the secretary go, and then September 7th, I'm going to let the sergeant at arms go. I did secure for September 7th, there's a day of caring put on by the United Way, which is like a volunteer day. And so the United Way is closed, which is where we normally meet. So I did arrange that we're using the stage at the farmer's market to do our meeting on, which will be pretty cool. And I think I'm speaking that day, which should be a lot of fun. And then this last Friday, just a couple of days ago, we had our annual meeting out at Jack's Cottage on Twin Lake. It's actually on North Lake, and that was a lot of fun, even though it was a super rainy day. So we all hung out inside, but it was a lot of fun getting together with all the Toastmasters people. Mom and I went to Seinfeld when he came to Grand Rapids, which was a blast. It's amazing. He's been touring for like 40 some years. I think he's 64 years old. I consider him having the most successful comedian career of all time, between the shows and touring and everything, and definitely on stage, I would say. And he got on. He did an hour set, and we laughed the whole time. I mean, I was pretty sore. Like, my diaphragm was sore from moving up and down by the time we left there. Also, coming up in September, I got tickets to Jordan Peterson, who's coming to Grand Rapids as well. Seinfeld was in DeVos, I think. Big stadium. Jordan Peterson's in 20 Monroe Live, quite a bit smaller, but it's so interesting. He's a psychology professor that now travels around giving speeches kind of like a rock star. It's a very unique thing, but I find him super interesting. I played with the idea. I've been playing with motivation a lot, or trying to play with motivation, because I've just fried it over the last couple of years. I mean, there's all the chemical, hormonal aspect of it, but there's also how many things I've failed at in the last couple of years because I wasn't able to do them. And just since late 2015, I've had to quit several jobs because I couldn't do the job. Before 2015, I'd never quit a job because I couldn't do the job. And that's a significantly different experience, admitting like you can't do something. And I've had so many really good opportunities slip through my fingers just because I couldn't do them. So that's been super annoying, and now it's really lowered my idea of what it's possible for me to do. And essentially I'm trying to coordinate that with reality, because at first my idea was I can do all this stuff, and then I would try, and then actually I couldn't. And now I might be underselling myself, but my health is increasing, and I've just these last couple of months I haven't really done anything. I mean, I've been, I work 7 days a week technically, and I've done a bunch of stuff, like all the stuff I've just been saying, but I haven't really geared myself towards something productive career-wise, I guess, because I keep thinking, like, if my health gets just a little bit better, then that'll be the time to do it, which I think is a misstep in my mindset if I'm thinking about that. Anyways, also, I've gotten up to eating all sorts of stuff, which is really cool. I can eat cow's milk colostrum from the store, Wallaby, which has basically no processing. It's pasteurized, but other than that, it's no processing, and seem to be digesting that fine. I've eaten some ghee recently, which is a more refined version of butter, and I seem to be able to process that, so I seem to be up to digesting cow's milk-based stuff, which is really cool. I have eaten Russian custard, which is just mixed raw egg yolks with raw honey, and I'm going to try dipping just a little bit of goat's milk in there too and see if that fluffs it up more. You stick it in the freezer, it freezes. It's like your frozen dessert, which is super good. And instead of other frozen desserts, I've had some fish broth, which actually isn't too bad, makes the house stink pretty bad, although I've mostly been eating pork broth and beef broth, mostly pork broth, because I've gotten up to eating certain kinds of barbecue sauce. Kingsford is what I get, because it doesn't have any cornstarch, any corn syrup of any kind, and I seem to digest it fairly well, although I maybe don't digest it perfectly, because now that I can take more stuff, I've been eating more stuff that I shouldn't, because I'm like, I won't feel that bad afterwards, and you can see like my skin's broken out a little more and stuff. I'm not sure exactly all what's causing that exactly. But I've still been eating duck eggs, not chicken eggs, but I have gotten up to eating chicken meat, which I couldn't before. So that's super cool because I've been having some barbecue chicken sometimes. And I tried experimenting with iodine because I've had some massive ups and downs over the last 2 months, and I had some increases right after I started the GAPS diet, and my heart rate lowered, and I felt a little better, and then I had a massive downslide for probably a couple of weeks, and I was trying to figure out what that would be, especially energy-wise, and I thought that maybe it was because I stopped doing the iodine, stopped taking iodine when I went on the GAPS diet. But minerals can take a little while to leach out of your system. But if my system's cranking like that all the time, like with the heart and the whole metabolism is running so much higher, I might be burning through my iodine really quick because your hormones take a lot of that. And I mean, all your cells take some iodine, but your hormonal system takes a lot, like your thyroid. And then your thyroid controls a lot of the rest of your hormonal system, including your general metabolism. So I thought that might be the issue. So I cycled on it. Now I've cycled off it. So I'm playing with how much iodine is affecting me. I'm not exactly sure. I went to Reed Muskegon and got approved through them for being a volunteer reading tour. I've not been set up with a tutor. It'd just be one-on-one session. I haven't been set up with anyone yet, but probably will in the near future. And then I also volunteered to be a substitute teacher for their jail and prison programs if they need someone. Actually, I'll get paid for that, so we'll see how that goes, but it seems pretty cool. And then I've played with different goal systems and whatnot, but no real success there. De Montfort Publishing, based out of England, which I applied for them quite a while ago now, and they've had some issues getting up and going off the ground. I haven't heard anything from them, so that's a super bad sign. So that probably didn't come through. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I had an interview and tried out with them. I haven't heard anything from them since, so that probably didn't go through, which I thought I flopped that interview. I am going to try to get, over the next couple of years, hopefully, a Guinness World Book of Records, which I saw on there. I was looking up the record for something else. And I saw this record they had, which was the fastest email ever typed on a tablet computer. And I was like, they have tons of records on it, right? Tens of thousands of different records. And I thought, it's so weird. I wonder what that is, like a couple of seconds, you know, something crazy. I clicked on it. No one's done it. It's just a record that is approved to be done, but it's not done. And I thought, well, I can do that day, and then I could have a Guinness Book of World Records. So I started doing that, and no, that's not how it works. You apply to be able to try to get the record, and then that takes 15 weeks to get approved. And then you have to set up the event, which means you'll have to have video recording, you'll have to have at least 2 local area athletic coaches who specifically time it, and you'll have to have witnesses sign like affidavits saying you did it and all this stuff. So it's a disaster. So I want to do something cooler, which I might try live writing. Harlan Ellison, who's kind of an old legend in science fiction, he invented like the Terminator stuff and whatnot, although he didn't write the movies, but he wrote a short story that the Terminator movie was based off of, I believe. And he did live writing. He traveled around because he started writing in prison, and he considered it a skill and a craft, and you have to work hard at it. Most professional writers only write for a couple hours a day because it mentally burns them out, and they can't produce quality content for more than that. A lot of writers write quite a bit less than that, even full-time professional ones. A few write more than that, not very many. And so he would travel around and he would put himself in live displays in bookstores. And this was back when there were more bookstores, and especially more local bookstores. And he would be in the front display typing on a typewriter. And every time he got done with a page, he would stick it on the window so you could read the story he was writing right then. And people were thinking that he already came up with the story way beforehand. And then he started taking recommendations off the street. You could go in, say, hey, write a story about this, and he would make up a science fiction story about that idea right there on the typewriter and stick it in the window. Live writing is a pretty cool demonstration. And it looks like Guinness doesn't have any records of that. So I thought about trying to do that. And then also American Ninja Warrior, which is one of my favorite shows on television. Super cool, right? There's the literal overcoming of obstacles and the metaphorical overcoming of obstacles in life. They do some cool human interest pieces, essentially. They have a design contest where you can try to design an obstacle, and I'm going to try to put in one of those here soon. I got a pay cut because of the conversion rates. So through the smaller company, I get paid $14 an hour, the smaller company I teach through, but in USD, right? $14 an hour. Through the larger company, I get, which I work through a lot more. I work through the small company, not very much anymore. The larger company, I get paid 19 bucks an hour, except for I don't. I get paid 120 RMB. I get paid 120 yuan per hour, which a couple of months ago was 19 bucks per hour. But the yuan is just diving right now compared to the US dollar. So now I'm getting paid like 17.50, maybe 17 bucks an hour. So that's a weird way to get a pay cut, but it is definitely cutting. One of my students, he's huge into math. Him and his dad, both, all they want to do is learn math and some science stuff, but mostly just math. And we did tons of math. That's the kid I had to look up. Alex is one of my Alexes. I had to look up how to do square roots by hand for it, which I still can't remember now, but I did look it up and memorize it, and a couple of days later taught it to him. I talked to him about doing different things with English rather than just math, and come to find out, he read all of Harry Potter, because I talked to him a few times about Harry Potter. A lot of kids in China like Harry Potter. A few things are popular, like that. Spider-Man is probably China's favorite superhero. Pokemon's huge over there. Transformers is huge. And so, come to find out, he read all of the Harry Potter books in Chinese. And now he's going back through and reading all of the Harry Potter books in English. And he's going through and watching all of the Harry Potter movies. And every time we have a class, we talk about Harry Potter. And we've been really working on his conversational skills. It's been working great, so it's super cool. I even gave a speech about it at Toastmasters, and it was really cool. Let's see. Back of the sheet. Oh, I had one really serendipitous day, and my heart rate was way down. Now, I've had a few days where my heart rate's dropped down to like 80, or at least in the 80s, and I feel really good those days. The days where my resting heart rate in the morning measures in the 90s are okay days. The days where I wake up, my heart rate's already over 100 beats per minute resting, usually not great days. Today it was 94. So probably a medium day, but my grip strength was really strong. I measure my heart rate, my blood pressure, and my grip strength on both hands every morning, which actually here. Blood pressure, cuff, and then dynamometer for grip strength. And that works pretty good. It gives me some good indications of stuff. I should probably do a little bit more, like measure my temperature every morning. I looked into it, but I just haven't done it. Also, and I thought for a while maybe it was a more liquid diet that was adjusting my heart rate more, but I haven't really done the experiments on it enough. Like maybe drinking a lot of bone broth rather than eating so much meat would change it. I have to run more tests on that. Also, I've been looking into how to change some of my mindset stuff, which a lot of it is just physical health, but a lot of it is not physical health. I've been diving heavy into Sylvan Tompkins, who is amazing, like savant psychologist he wrote books from the 60s through the 90s on affect theory, right? And it's emotional system theory, basically, which is our whole motivational system. So that's been super interesting. I have looked quite a bit at nonviolent communication recently, which has a weird name, started by Marshall Rosenberg, and it's more about communicating with people, but I thought about using it to communicate more with myself, to work out the mental emotional issues, to get moving on stuff more. It's kind of worked out. I've made some progress on that, but Sylvan Tompkins is definitely where it lies. I believe I have two of his huge books, Affect, Imagery, and Consciousness. Let's see. Here, I'll grab one. This is the second book, Affect, Imagery, and Consciousness. This is about the negative affects. Book one is about the positive affects, and they are intense to read. They push my reading comprehension level, which is cool. I like it when stuff does that, and not very much does anymore. Also, I've been still studying a lot of writing, even though I haven't actually been doing a lot of writing. So this is one of those serendipitous things. So I'm reading Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, which has a lot to just do with human understanding, literature, and actually it's a super good book. It's really insightful and interesting, super smart guy, and it's set up as a comic book, which I've never been huge into comics, but it's really cool. And then I ordered George R.R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, Fever Dream, which is his take on vampires. I ordered his book called Skin Trade, novella really, about werewolves, his take on werewolves. I wanted to see it, and it came like this. I accidentally, instead of ordering the novel, I ordered the graphic novel. So it's cool because I've been reading this book about understanding the psychology of comic books essentially, and then I accidentally ordered a comic book. So that was quite serendipitous. A few days ago, I went to the circus down in Grand Haven, which was a lot of fun. Those straight metal benches were definitely rough on my spinal system, but nevertheless, Bud and Barb, I've been in town and I've hung out with them a few times. That was a lot of fun. The one day, hung out with them a long time because I was helping them set up a TV, and we had some logistical issues with it, but ended up working out good. And then Barb, earlier that day, maybe at like 1 p.m., they told me it was National Banana Split Day. And that just rolled around in my head all day. So like by 7 p.m. I asked Mom and her friend Cheryl if they wanted to go have a banana split, and we did. So that's the stuff I got to watch, which there was a time not very long ago, a couple of months ago, whereas if I had a banana split, like I would have had major right, I won't go into details, but major digestive and just overall health issues for like 2 days. I mean, I would have been down. And this, I felt worse, but not significantly worse. So each time I kind of cheat like that, it is a little bit of a gauge of how much my digestive system and immune system are healing, which I realized is the same issue. I was thinking they were separate issues, but it's the digestive damage that's causing the immune issues, the autoimmune issues and whatnot. And yeah, so I am making a lot of progress there. Also, at one point in here, maybe a few weeks ago, I talked with my friend Casey, and he's an interesting guy. We talk about a bunch of stuff, everything from politics to religion, and I keep a whole document on my own possible private religion, essentially, on the views I would have, and I have a bunch of interesting stuff going in that direction. And we came up with a name that might be decent, theoconceptualism. Theoconceptualism. So, because I hadn't had a name up to this point. And my friend Oleg, which I do not pronounce his name correctly because it's supposed to have a Scandinavian accent, who's from Russia, we finally did a video chat for the first time in person because we'd only been typing back and forth on VK or Facebook. And it was really cool talking to him. The project's going great. He has over 50 authors signed for Horror Without Borders, which is the anthology, and from all 7 continents, because he even has one scientist from Antarctica. It's going to write a flash fiction horror story. I still have to write mine. I haven't gotten around to it yet. And really interesting. I mean, so he's going to publish it in Russian, and then I'm going to be the editor for the English version, and we're going to publish it on Amazon, probably in print on demand and in ebook format in the United States in English. So that's a really cool project, and all the stories are due in January of 2019, so I don't know when the book will actually be out, probably the middle of 2019, something like that, but we'll see. And a bunch of other stuff happened in there. My strength seems to have plateaued. I'm not making any strength gains, but I'm staying decently strong. And I've just been working out. I work out once every 7 to 14 days with the 6-pound hammers. So that seems to be working. I don't want to press that too much because I definitely don't heal super fast. I heal kind of slow. So because my immune system still has some issues, which is the same thing that heals your muscular system when you damage it, which is what you're doing when you exercise. So I haven't been pushing that at all, but I'm comfortable with the strength that I'm at, and my body fat percentage has been sticking around in like the low teens, so probably 13 to 15% body fat, which I'm really comfortable with, and my weight's been sticking around in the low 170s, so like 170 to 175, right in there, which I'm really comfortable at. Because at one time I was up to like 35% body fat and 235 pounds, something like that. Ridiculous. My hormones were still off, and just my whole digestive immune system, everything was jacked up. I have stretch marks from that time. So, I mean, physically I've improved a lot, and I'm obviously having a lot of repairing going on internally. So not sure how much damage there has been, but there's been a ton, so there's a lot of stuff to repair. But I'm making a lot of progress in repairing that stuff in the digestive system, and hopefully the immune system, and hopefully the organs that are still accumulating probably other damage from the system running too fast. And my spine seems to be more stable, although we might be getting into a little bit of a plateau again now. So I have to play with that, continually playing with stuff. I think though, I might be able to get up to riding a motorcycle again, probably in a couple of years. Don't have the finances to do that now. And maybe a couple of the cool adventures that were still on my bucket list, which, you know, like seeing Jerry Seinfeld live was. So I got that off. So there's certain things I can do. So like, but like I might be able to ride in like a fan boat or a helicopter. Should be able to get those off the list. But I might even be able to like wrestle an alligator. We'll see, because that would really jack up my spine. But then only for that little bit. I can't do like super long hiking or something like that. I wouldn't be able to sustain it. I can't actually do something physical for very long, for very many hours, or for very many days in a row without having major issues. But some of the short-term things I might be able to fit in and get done. So who knows? It'll be super interesting. And I have some other things in the works, but I will update those. I'll be doing these videos more often now. I don't know why I did the last 2 months. It's just a psychological thing of thinking I would be able to come back and in the video be like, I'm good, which I am better. So I guess that is quite positive. Yeah. Anyways, till next time, Jeff signing off.